So, good morning. Welcome back to Fehu State of Mind for my second video. I'm gonna head somewhere today. Hopefully the weather will show it a little bit. But I'm gonna head and show you one of my places in Portsmouth I really like to go to watch the sun come up. But it's currently kind of cloudy, so I'm not sure how much we're gonna see. But hey, anything's worth a shot. So, without further ado, next time you see me, we'll be at that spot. So, I'm here. It's Sunday, June 18th. As I'm filming, it's Father's Day. So, happy Father's Day to any of the fathers out there. The video will be out this week. Sorry it'll be late. But I'm sitting here at my favorite spot in Portsmouth to watch the sunrise. And unfortunately, right now, the clouds aren't going to allow it to happen. But I'll share it with you guys because the view is just beautiful. So what's up, YouTube, on this beautiful Sunday morning? It's been a little cloudy, it's been a little rainy this weekend, but you know, I thought I wouldn't get me down and I'd do a video. So kind of have dual inspiration for this video, and just decided I'd come out to Suffolk to do some driving because there's pretty country roads. So it is Sunday and it's Father's Day, so that's where my dual inspiration kind of comes from. So this is going to be about being a dad, and this is going to be about religion and my perspective from a book I'm reading right now. So let's start with being a dad. I have two daughters. One's 3, one's about a year and a half old, and they are awesome. Really couldn't have gotten two better kids, honestly. Being a dad's cool. It's totally different from anything I've ever done previously in my life, because now all of a sudden you got two people that are dependent on you and your wife and your family, and you really see what it means to be responsible. You know, people joke about getting a dog or a pet and it being prepping you for having a kid, but they're really nothing alike. I mean, you know, pets, they're gonna love you no matter what. So for me, being a dad's just a really cool experience. It's a chance to see the world through a different set of eyes, and experience it, you know. So that's kind of me on being a dad. So like I said earlier, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there, to all the moms that fill in for dads. You know, you guys have it tough too, being single parents. So the single dads out there that are being both dad and mom, and you guys are rocking it. So happy Father's Day from me to you. So the other side of that coin. Well, actually, before I go on, I gotta give a shout out too, because I had a wonderful soda this morning, courtesy of Ruby Melton and my wife Chloe McDaniel. They hooked it up, got me some Fanta Lemon from Ireland when Ruby went over there, and I have been wanting Fanta Lemon for 11 years now, since I came back on my trip to Spain and Portugal. So anyone who knows me knows that that's like a passion of mine. So I finally got to have Fanta Lemon again after 11 years not having it. Alright, so on to religion. I was reading the other day in the Poetic Edda, which, if you watch my last video, or if you know anything about Viking culture, that is the Viking poems, the sagas, and what would be closest to any kind of religious text of theirs before they were converted to Christianity. And I was particularly reading a poem called Lokasana, which is Loki's song. And we get an interesting picture of Loki painted because Marvel has made the Thor movies and personified Loki. And a lot of people just kind of attribute Loki as the trickster god, which that's what he is in Norse culture. He's a trickster. much like Kokopelli and the Native American religions, and any other religion that has polytheism, which is multiple gods, there's normally a trickster. And I'd never really thought about it. Well, I kind of had, but I've never really thought about the fact that in polytheistic religions, they have gods that basically mirror the emotions that humans feel, but each god kind of personifies one or two emotions or something like that. So I'd never really thought about that. But Loki is an interesting character because he is a trickster. A lot of people try to lump him into a category with the devil. I don't know if I'd go that far based on my reading. I think that trickster really is the best term. But I saw a different side of Loki in the Lokasana. And some background for the Lokasana, Loki is not invited to a feast with all the other Asir, or the gods, in the Norse poems. And they're all in there drinking and having a good time, feasting at their longhouse, at one of their longhouses. So Loki, being clever, he knocks on the door, goes in, and everyone asks him, why is he here? And he says to Odin, he's like, Odin, don't you remember we were never supposed to drink without each other? And Odin says, you're right, come in, sit down, you're welcome to dine and drink with us. Which, if you know about Viking culture, that was a concept there. So pretty much any stranger at the door, any guest at the door was welcome in, and to feast. Same thing with the Scots. That's why you had the slaughter of the MacDonalds by the Campbells, because the Campbells sought refuge with the MacDonalds, and in their sleep the Campbells killed the MacDonalds at the bidding of the King of England. So it was a concept in earlier days to welcome even your enemy in to your house. If they asked for food or shelter, you would welcome them in, but keep a wary eye. So Odin tells Loki he can come in, and Loki proceeds to engage with the other gods of Norse culture in the poem. And basically what happens is they'll say something to him like, Loki, what are you doing here? You know, you're not here to do any good. And he would just tell them, basically shut up. And he would spill their secrets, per se, or try to discredit them with telling stories about them that weren't positive. And he did this for every single one of the Norse gods. And he goes through the list, each one of them, and as he goes through talking and criticizing each one of the gods, the next god will step up and he'll say, surely, Loki, you can just sit down and drink with us, don't worry about all that. And he'd basically shut that god down too and tell them, no, but you did this, how are you the one to speak? So he knew all the bad things they'd done, and he was using it against them. The only one that he was not able to do that to, he tried to, was Thor. Thor came in and told Loki basically that he was going to hit him with his hammer, Mjolnir, if he didn't knock it off. And finally, after the third or fourth time, Loki decides to leave because he knows that Thor will actually do it. So I'm sitting here reading this text, this ancient Norse text that's polytheistic, and I'm looking at it through my lenses of monotheism and Christianity. And monotheism, obviously there's one God, and that's, for Christians, that's God, who we call God, and he has his Son and his Holy Spirit. And I was sitting there thinking, and I realized something interesting about Loki. While Loki is one of the gods in Norse culture, he's not always put on the same level as the other gods. And I kind of have a theory on that. I think maybe Loki kind of is people. He's the representation of man. Because what do we do? What do we do as humans in any religion? You know, something starts not going our way, or we don't like what's going on, and we start blaming things on God. We start blaming things on other people. And that's basically what Loki was doing. He was just blaming it on other people. So I was like, that's pretty interesting. You know, Loki is basically man in this poem anyway. And trying to tear down the gods. And you know, like I say, whether you're Christian, you know, anything, I think we all go through that point. And I don't think we should. I mean, obviously, in Christianity, our God is a loving God and kind God. He doesn't personify all the emotions of humans. He more or less sets up an example of how we should live. And, you know, I find that's probably one of the biggest differences between Christianity and other older religions. And I do find that to be the case in other Abrahamic religions. When you study the cores of Judaism, when you study the cores of Islam, it's kind of the same thing. It's not about, you know, hate, and it's about love, but that message gets corrupted. So I thought that was interesting, and I wanted to share it with YouTube today. So, the personal side to what I was talking about with religion and with respects to what I found interesting about Loki's poem. So, as I told you in the first video, and if you're new to the channel, you might not know this. A couple years ago, I was pretty angry. I went through a spell of being a little bit angry at just something. And I really had a hard time reconciling that anger. I couldn't understand, you know, how to deal with it, because for me, I was raised Christian. And anger is really not a part of Christianity. It's not generally a concept that is promoted or taught, or, you know, it's one of the more negative emotions. And I really had a rough time with this because I couldn't understand why I was feeling so angry, and I couldn't reconcile the religious side of that. And I didn't waver in my faith. I always believed, but I had moments of just not even knowing where I stood. And that was rough for me too, because my whole life this is what I've known. And what do? I mean, it's what you know. You know, it's, and I realized I was not maybe having inward anger. There was the things like the complications with the childbirth that I didn't understand. I still don't understand it. I don't know why it had to happen the way it did. I don't know why I had to go through that moment. I would like to say that it made me a stronger person on the backside of it. And it probably did, but I don't know. Still growing and still experiencing. But I will say I have come back with a renewed faith. Oddly enough, some of my renewed faith has come from studying other things, going outside of Christianity, like learning about the Vikings, like studying certain texts that they wrote and just not being so locked into a box. It kind of brought me closer to my own personal faith. And like I said, I started to see God in other things and man in other things, like Lokisana, the Loki's poem, Loki's song. I don't know that I would have seen that the way that I did a year ago or 2 years ago. I think I would have probably had a different perspective on it. I don't know, I'm not sure. But my lens now, my perspective now, drew me to that conclusion that Loki is the personification of man, and man is always on the always trying to force things into his perspective. And I know I'm guilty of it. I know that's mostly what caused my issues, is me trying to force life into my perspective of things instead of just trusting and it just made things rough. So I say that, and I'm hoping that maybe my experience can help somebody else and help you see that, it just takes time and patience. It takes being willing to live and experience to get to the next point in your life. Don't be afraid of the journey that gets you there either, because it's that journey that's going to make you a stronger, better person in the long run. And it's that journey that teaches you the life lessons that you need to move on to the next point in your life. It's that's the Fehu takeaway for today. I mean, it's that Fehu state of mind that I'm trying to achieve. It's each life experience, each life lesson is exactly that. It's a lesson. It's a chance to grow, and growing's uncomfortable. I've always heard that all my life, but up until my working years, and up until having kids, and up until experiencing the issues with the complications with childbirth that my wife had and that my second daughter had, I hadn't really had a hard life. I'm not bragging, I'm not boasting, I just hadn't had a hard life. And part of that was my mindset when I was younger, because I just kind of rolled with the punches and wasn't as really planted in my ideas and my thoughts. I was a little bit more willing to just kind of let life happen and believe that things were going to go the right way. And of course, you become an adult, you get your own bills, you get your own house, and it doesn't work that way. Well, it does. It still should work that way, but you have to make sure that you're doing the right things, that you're keeping your house, that you're getting your bills paid, obviously. And for me, getting tested that way and getting pushed that way, I actually got to a point where I felt like I had to trust in me. And it's in that moment that I became, I guess, angry. That's the what caused the anger and what caused negative emotions, because we're not that strong, you know. We have to have that. We need that support in our life. And I'm not saying you just don't pay attention to what's going on in your own life, but I'm saying that you shouldn't worry. Jesus, in the New Testament, the Bible says you should have the faith of a mustard seed, or the faith of a sparrow, I believe it is, a small bird, period. And the small bird doesn't need to worry about whether he's going to eat or not. He knows he's going to eat. Obviously, we have to be good stewards of our money. We have to be good, you know, at not just being wasteful, but we're going to be taken care of. And that's harder to just say, yeah, we're going to be taken care of, when you have bills, when you start having harder things in life. And that's what I experienced. And I'm trying to get back to that point. I'm a lot better off than I was. And, you know, it's been a group process. My wife's helped me get there. My wife's amazing and supportive. You know, she's just kind of like been there for me no matter what. And I appreciate that.